Good Monday morning, everyone. Here we are at week number 4. So this is the halfway point in our term, and we have been rolling right along. This week you're going to learn about metabolism, cellular respiration, and photosynthesis, and I'll have more to say about that in just a minute. Okay, so last week you learned about classification of organisms, all the way from the domain down to the species or subspecies level, why that's important. And then we talked about dividing up organisms into 2 main groups, the eukaryotes, which include animals, plants, fungi, and protists, which is almost everything on the planet besides bacteria. Wait a minute, it is everything besides bacteria. And then we have prokaryotic cells, and the other word for prokaryotic is bacterial. The 2 terms are interchangeable. We learned about cell structures. And you had some discussions about antibiotic resistance in bacteria. Remember that an antibiotic is a drug that's prescribed for a bacterial infection. Not good for viral infections. You take antivirals for those. And there are many fewer antiviral drugs because they're harder and more specific to find and to develop. So anyway, we talked about antibiotic resistance, and I hope you watched that Harvard Medical School video that I posted because it is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so this week you're going to learn about some metabolism. So what is metabolism? Remember back in chapter 2, we learned about the chemistry of organisms, those organic molecules. Right, so now we're going to talk about a little bit more chemistry. But this is chemical reactions that take place in organisms, and that is called metabolism. So metabolism is the sum total of all the chemical reactions that happen in cells. And you have catabolic reactions where you break down molecules, and usually you're talking about food, and lots of different molecules can be food molecules. You break those down to produce energy in the form of ATP, and also the little monomers, the little subunits of molecules that you need in order to build your own molecules, whatever type of organism you are. So that's catabolism, breaking down molecules. And then you have anabolic reactions in metabolism where you build up and make the molecules that you need. Okay, that's all of metabolism. Now that breakdown of food molecules is important because organisms on the planet do this in several different ways. Most organisms do something called aerobic respiration. And so aerobic respiration is breaking down food, for example, glucose, in the presence of oxygen to make a ton of ATP molecules. The reason that big old organisms like us on the planet use aerobic respiration is because we can make so many ATP molecules from one single glucose. Then there are other organisms on the planet, small ones, bacteria and some of the protists, that do something called anaerobic respiration and or fermentation. These are both processes where food is broken down, like glucose, and ATP molecules are made, but these are done without oxygen. So instead of oxygen accepting the last little hydrogen molecules at the end of this breakdown process, you have other acceptors, electron acceptors. Remember that a hydrogen atom is just a proton and an electron. So anyway, when I say electron acceptor, you're talking basically about a hydrogen. So anyway, I have an extra video on this. I have an extra video on this to help you understand this and to help you with one of your assignments. Okay, I will post this in the announcement. As always, read the Module 4 introduction. Take a look at your chapters. You will need these, especially 7 and 8. At least skim through these chapters so you know where everything is when you go to answer questions. So read the Module 4 introduction and watch the video on the carbonated ocean, which is a scary problem that comes about because of all the carbon dioxide that we're pumping into the air through the burning of fossil fuels. Okay, so what do you have to do this week? You have 3 different things to do this week. Yeah, I told you it's going to be a busy week. So the discussion board postings. You have to answer a question. Are photosynthesis and cellular respiration processes opposite or complementary or both? Okay, number 1. When anyone asks you a question like this, automatically you know that the answer is both. Otherwise, they wouldn't have mentioned that, okay? They would have said, are they opposite or complementary, right? So the answer has to be both. So let's think about that for just a second. It always helps to back way off from these processes and think about the purpose of them. So what the heck is the purpose of photosynthesis? The purpose of photosynthesis is to take some molecules along with some sunlight energy and make glucose, okay? A waste product that's also produced is oxygen, but literally that is a waste product. Organisms that do photosynthesis just release that old oxygen, okay? And what goes into making glucose? Well, carbon dioxide, that's where we get the carbons from to make the glucose, and water, and sunlight energy. Okay, that's pretty simple. Well, what is cellular respiration? It's breaking down glucose to make ATP molecules. Aha! All right, but what else? Okay, if you do aerobic respiration, you also use up oxygen. And the waste product of cellular respiration is carbon dioxide. So we're noticing some common molecules here. Glucose, carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, energy of some type. Sunlight energy goes into photosynthesis. ATP comes out of cellular respiration. Okay, so that should help you a little bit with that question, but do contemplate it a little bit more and see what you come up with. You also need to answer the question, are autotrophs the foundation of all ecosystems? So what the heck is an autotroph? Auto means self, troph means feeding. So these are the organisms that do photosynthesis. So you're talking about plants, but also protists like algae. Are they the foundation of all ecosystems? Think that one through. Think about any food web pyramid that you've ever seen. And what's on the bottom of that food web pyramid? All right, and then in your response post, you're going to talk about the release of carbon dioxide. That sounds familiar from last week, and its consequences. And included here is that video that you were supposed to watch in the beginning about the carbonation of the ocean. All right, so the discussion board postings. Then you have a journal entry. And this is a comparison of aerobic and anaerobic respiration processes. This is where my video will help you because I explain this to you in a very short amount of time compared to reading all that information in the textbook. I'm just saying, if you watch it, you will be able to answer this very easily. You're also going to discuss whether the process of glycolysis, which is, and if you look at the word, you can figure out what it means. Glyco means sugar, like glucose. Lysis means to break. And so glycolysis is the breaking in half of a glucose molecule to release 2 ATP molecules. And ATP is the energy molecule that runs all the reactions in cells, or almost all. So how ancient is glycolysis? Why do we think that it is ancient? Well, every organism on the planet can do it. That's a pretty good hint. And you don't have to have oxygen to do glycolysis. Realize I didn't mention anything about oxygen. So how do those two things help you decide that this must be a very ancient metabolic process? And then you're going to discuss ethanol as a biofuel. Is it good? Is it bad? You're going to give pros and cons to the use of ethanol as a biofuel. So that will be interesting. And then you've got milestone 2 of your final project too. And this really is the most important part of your project, because the reason that you're doing this, the reason that you're choosing a final project to research, is for you to connect biology with this problem or issue that you're interested in. So this is all the biology section of your final project. So let's talk about these sections for just a second. And remember, I said organize your information in outline form. This one is also outline form, but it's not just a couple of words in an outline. It's whole paragraphs of information, and I'll talk about that in a second. So this is the third part of the third section of your final project that was called milestone 2. Okay, so anyway, this is the biology part. Level of organization. So at what level of organization does this topic affect life? So for example, if you're talking about genetically modified organisms, so this is on the organismal level that you have this genetic modification going on, but it also affects species, because then you may have different species that you're producing through genetic modification. Now, does it affect everything on the biosphere level? No, that doesn't make any sense. But then think about global warming, climate change. That absolutely is a biosphere level effect, because it affects every environment, every climate, every organism on the planet. You see, so where in the hierarchy of organization, from the species all the way to the biosphere, does your topic affect? And you're going to explain that. Analysis. You're going to choose 3 biological concepts that have something to do with your topic. Okay, so let's think eutrophication. Okay, eutrophication is the aging of a body of water, like a lake or a pond, that fills up with silt, plus too many nutrients are being dumped in. You have things like algal blooms. So what kinds of biology is going on here? Number 1, photosynthesis, because the algal blooms are caused by all the nutrients that are being dumped into the water, and then those algae or protists, whatever they are, can do more photosynthesis, right? So that's why photosynthesis is pertinent to this particular topic. So in the analysis section, you are going to describe to us what photosynthesis is. Okay? You're not telling us how it relates to the topic yet, because lo and behold, that comes in the next section. You're going to describe these 3 biological concepts or processes to your audience, because remember, you're assuming that your audience doesn't know all this biology. And so the purpose of you taking this class is to learn some biology so that you could talk with someone about it, right? So 3 biological concepts or processes. You're going to describe those in the analysis section. Then in the next section, relationship to topic, you're going to connect photosynthesis to eutrophication, right? What I explained before about the algae doing photosynthesis, because there are extra nutrients that are being dumped into the water. So the relationship of your biological concepts to your particular issue or topic. Characteristics of life. Select one of your biological concepts that you analyzed and show how characteristics of life are affected by this concept. So how does photosynthesis affect metabolism, energy production, anything like that, right? Impact on health. So how does one of your biological processes or concepts impact human or environmental health? And realize it says human or environmental health, right? So it doesn't have to be both. And use real examples. And using real examples through the whole thing is awesome, because it shows that you're making all the connections between the biology, and your particular topic. Okay, so that is a big part of your work this week. But it's a really important one, and it's an important part of your project because really that's the whole purpose of this course, for you to learn enough biology to make connections between that and what you see out there as problems in the world. Okay, and that being said, that's what you have to do this week, 3 different things, so it's going to be a busy week before Thanksgiving. So if you need anything, please let me know. Just email me, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. Just let me know if you need anything.